So what is POTS? So we're actually doing this video so people have what is POTS. It's actually a very big topic, but to at least give people some basic concepts. What is POTS? It's probably an endless topic, but really postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome initially is a tilt table diagnosis, seeing a certain heart rate change, 120 beats in the first 10 minutes of a tilt, or 30 beats over baseline heart rate readings from supine, or in adults, or 40 beats over baseline in a pediatric patient. So it's really a tilt table diagnosis documenting something that's happening about blood pressure, dysregulation, and heart rate response. That we're noticing that people who are coming down this road to have a tilt table, they've lost this ability to regulate their blood pressure and heart rate response. The majority of the people, their hearts are just fine, and actually the hearts are working well to compensate because of this dysregulation of blood pressure and this very high heart rate response. The hearts are really compensating to get the job done because of blood pressure failed response of the microcirculation. So postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome is really commenting on tilt table response. People actually are led to a tilt table as a test based upon many symptoms of fainting. About 10–15% might faint, near fainting, but mainly fatigue, exhaustion, standing up, getting dizzy, lightheaded, woozy, vertigo, headachy because the blood's not getting to your head, pounding, head sensation, neck pain called the coat hanger, digestion off, wobbly legs, walking, failure to exercise, a decline in your daily function, brain fog, not able to think, jitteriness, sweatiness, tired but can't rest, a sense of unsettledness, jittery, just a sense of uneasiness as your body's trying to often pulsate adrenaline to keep your blood pressure steady. So it's interesting, this diagnosis is called POTS, but often many of the symptoms are tied into not always standing up. Why the term POTS can be often confusing. That's why sometimes it's better to call it maybe orthostatic adrenaline syndrome or orthostatic sympathetic syndrome, because as a hallmark of a basic understanding, gravity is always pulling us down. We're vertical animals, about 1–2 cups of blood's pulling down routinely in our body. That's when we stand up, that's immediate pull. And our body has these sensors that's anchored neurologic centers in our blood vessels up here called the baroreceptor. We'll get to that. The baroreceptor that senses the blood's flowing properly. And if not, it will send impulses up to the brain and then to speed up the heart rate and to make the heart rate speed up to compensate the blood's not flowing. So heart speed up, get the blood pumping, and also squeeze the blood vessels. Many of you, if you have a problem, the blood vessels don't squeeze to get the blood pressure stabilized, the heart will then race more, thus the tachycardia, racing heart rate. But basically, blood's always pulling down, and then we have a mechanism that works flawlessly until you have a problem like many of you have with POTS, where the blood drops, can't get up, your heart will race. That's the tachycardia or the baroreceptor, thus adrenergic sympathetic response that occurs. And again, this postural thing, it doesn't always mean changing postures. Prolonged sitting, so a long car ride, airport ride, laying in bed, the blood pulls down. You can have similar symptoms. So this all can occur in that mechanism too. So it's a very unique syndrome. I call it like Goldilocks, too hard, too soft, just right, where you'll notice that laying around too much can feel bad, too much activity is bad. You find your sort of sweet spot where it's an issue. So the basic concept is gravity's pulling blood down, your body senses the gravity pull all the time, and they'll push the blood back up by these sensors called the baroreceptor. Again, these sensors sense the blood filling the blood vessels and stretching, and if they fill properly, the blood pressure is stable, the heart rate's stable, everything's good. Many of you lost that mechanism, and if it doesn't work, it'll send impulses to the brain where they'll locate these centers, send impulses back down called the baroreceptor, speed up the heart rate, and try to squeeze the blood vessels. Important concept is many of you will have low blood pressure, and then this, and maybe the blood pressure doesn't jump. Sometimes the baroreceptor kicks in, and many of you have moments of high blood pressure because it's overzealous, the baroreceptor. But also important concept, the heart rate will speed up, and that baroreceptor, because it's neurologic, is like a circuit, and your body will start remembering to keep kicking in this adrenaline response, kick in, kick in, kick in, kick in, and it'll hold on. So every time you have this sort of event of dizziness, lightheadedness, trigger of your POTS, this baroreceptor kicks in, it'll start linking many experiences, whether it be bad food, a weather, a stress, a menstrual cycle, illness, kicking adrenaline, kicking adrenaline, kicking adrenaline. That's why all the POTS wellness matters. A relevant point why these receptors go to the brain is your brain needs to make you aware at some level that something's wrong with your body. Thus, why we get that sort of unsettled, doomsday, jittery, fight or flight, freeze, frozen experience that with POTS, the unsettled feeling ties into also some mechanism of brain fog that you can't think as well if your body tells you you're in survival mode. You're not going to be thinking the best thoughts in your life, your most creative. So again, it brings into the concepts of POTS why if your body senses blood's dropping, you're not regulating your blood pressure, that, and the brain needs to make you aware as part of the autonomic system is your brain to make you aware that something's not right, that something is not right, that you need to be aware. So your autonomic nervous system is fight or flight, adrenaline, which is getting your blood pressure up and heart rate up, fight or flight, parasympathetic, vagal, rest and digest. So if you're high adrenaline, you're not gonna be able to rest and digest. That's where you get all that bloating, irritable bowel, nausea, digestion's off, can't eat foods, my diet's changed. Your brain needs to be alert because your brain needs to know that something's wrong with you as part of the autonomic nervous system. And part of the autonomic nervous system is actually, part of it is actually your skin is part of it because your skin's part of your high protection. So sweating occurs in fight or flight and adrenaline, get more sweaty, slippery, as if you're in nature and being attacked, you're gonna be more protected, less able to be attacked if you're slippery. Also part of this sort of fight or flight response, your muscles lock up. So tight neck muscles, tight flank muscles, tight arm muscles. So part of the POTS care of controlling the adrenaline is the muscles over time will loosen up. So a lot of muscle pain happens, joint pain. Part of the autonomic nervous system is, your endocrine system. So we'll see a lot of times people have reactive hypoglycemia. Once you control the POTS, it gets better. Digestion's off because you can't rest and digest. If it's off, a lot of your immune system is in your gut. So once we get the POTS doing better, a lot of their allergies start calming down, food sensitivities start to do better. It all interplays together. So it's very important. So what causes POTS? Many factors can be. It can run in families, some susceptibilities. We can see neuropathy as some cause for people, whether it's the impairment to the nerves, squeeze the blood vessels, so the blood pressure drops and the heart rate will race. Head injury can cause it because some of those receptors that actually control blood pressure in the brain, so you injure the brain, they can cause it. COVID's a big cause, mono, air lows, down lows, genetic mobility conditions, some autoimmune. We can see life traumas, adverse life events, and endless other possibilities. So regardless of what is the cause of your POTS, and people get often very anchored is, I must know if I'm neuropathic POTS, which is usually the low blood pressure POTS. There are people in Florinef or Midrodine, and they have neuropathy as by on the physical exam or in their testing, or people have hyperadrenergic, they have high catecholamine levels, so they have a high blood pressure and a high heart rate testing, or the hypovolemic, which is a unique entity where they actually waste volume, urinary volume, and they can't concentrate their body fluids. Whether type, and a lot of people fluctuate between each subtype of POTS, whether your cause is your POTS or which subgroup you're in, and most people don't fit into a subgroup. Many of the treatments are similar. And I always recommend people at this point to really look at our POTS manual. You can just Google Cleveland Clinic POTS, and you'll actually find the POTS manual. It's a great resource to read. And there's lots of videos on this video YouTube channel, Wilson Orthostatic exercise to look at. But there's basic foundations. One is believe in yourself. Two is having the diagnosis gives you clarity and insight to know what's going on. We believe in education, empowerment, exercise, your mind, body, and spirit. Hydration is important. Water can work for people. Find, if you need to, electrolyte beverage that you can tolerate, that doesn't give you a laxative effect, bloating, that you can tolerate without making allergies or sensitivities, or that the sugar doesn't bother you, or the artificial sweeteners. Some people, salt helps them. Some people, salt makes them worse. So figure out salt supplementation in your diet. Some people, compression stockings help them, and garments help them. Some people doesn't. There's actually a maneuver called legs on the wall yoga maneuver you can try that works well, that you can do, and just Google yoga legs on the wall. You can do it often during the day as needed. One thing I recommend highly we all do is when you're high adrenaline, your body's in survival mode. You really got to find ways to show your brain and body that you are well, and to find time in the day, 5-10 minutes, maybe a few times a day, to pause and find activities. It could be reading, music, meditation, yoga, chair yoga, fishing, knitting, whatever that is, to show your brain and body that it can be an adrenaline-free zone, and give you whatever that is for yourself. Very important. The last thing is get your body moving. It's hard to exercise or move your body when you feel so ill, flu-like. There's many videos on this channel, but starting simple, we get the blood moving essentially, building the muscles strong. After your heart, your leg, and your gluteal butt muscles are your second circulatory chamber. So getting these muscles moving is so important, and really getting these muscles activated is key to really sort of control the adrenaline, keep the body strong, and get that circulatory tree moving. And it helps long-term to re-show the body that it can handle adrenaline and be in an adrenaline-free zone. So this is an introduction to POTS to help you along and give you tools. I recommend look at all the videos, watch this video again, share it with loved ones, and support people and people who might not get you. So thank you for sharing this. And again, I'm Dr. Rob Wilson.